There's a specific point in a leader's career where the path forward seems clear, the promotions are pretty much expected, and, well, by all external measures, you're successful. And yet, internally, you hit a stalemate. It's this quiet, critical moment where consistent achievement just doesn't guarantee fulfillment anymore. So today, let's break down the anatomy of that professional stalemate.
Now, you might hear a quote like this from Steve Jobs and think, oh, that's for entrepreneurs, for startups. But really, it's a vital diagnostic tool for established leaders who are navigating sustained success. It's a place where momentum can so easily be mistaken for actual purpose. And right there, that's the central tension we're exploring. It's the paradox that shows up when you've mastered the game, only to start questioning if you're even playing on the right board. And look, this feeling, it isn't a sign of failure. It's often the first signal of a necessary evolution. So let's explore this moment through a real-world case study, a point where the friction between a successful career path and, personal alignment became just impossible to ignore.
Okay, so picture this, a stable 12-year career in financial services. This isn't a story about some crisis. It's a story of competence, of routine, and a very predictable advancement. The person is a proven performer, which is exactly what makes the internal conflict so important.
And the path forward? It's laid out so clearly, it's almost automatic, right? You go from analyst to senior analyst, then officer to VP. It is the very definition of a stable career trajectory. So the next logical step was senior vice president. It was expected. But this is where the friction really starts to build. A fundamental question came up. Beyond the title, beyond the pay grade, what does that role actually contain? What's the day-to-day reality of that success? And it turns out a single, candid observation provided the answer. This was the turning point, where that abstract idea of the future suddenly became uncomfortably concrete. The author observed a senior leader who was, for all intents and purposes, a preview of her own future. The assumption was that the role would be about high-level strategy and influence. The observed reality, though, it was a leader completely consumed by his mobile phone, just moving from one meeting to the next with no time for any genuine connection, just a quick hi and bye in the hallway. That unfiltered glimpse into the future, that was the catalyst. It forced the question, do I want a job that consumes so much of my time that I don't even have time to connect with my own employees? This prompted a really intentional search for a different perspective, which ended up leading to an investment in a life coaching course. Now, this period of reflection didn't just lead to a career change. It produced a set of really sharp, strategic insights about the nature of professional growth itself. So the first core insight is realizing that moving up is not the same thing as moving forward with intention. A promotion can feel like progress, for sure, but it might just be the next stop on a predetermined track, not a step toward a destination you've actually chosen. Second, being indispensable can be a powerful anesthetic. Think about it. A heavy workload, a full calendar, constant problem solving, all of that can effectively mask a fundamental lack of alignment. You're just too busy performing to notice you're on the wrong stage. And this really illustrates the central conflict. You can hit every single target, get excellent reviews, and be a top performer, yet be completely misaligned with your role. Performance metrics, it turns out, are not a measure of personal fulfillment. So the trigger for this kind of strategic shift isn't failure. It's the hollow feeling of an incomplete success. It's achieving the goal and realizing it wasn't the right one. That feeling, that's the true beginning of strategic awareness. So how do we put this experience into context? Because it's not just a personal anecdote, it really represents a distinct and critical phase within a much larger strategic framework for navigating your career. Within the pawn to queen model, this entire journey is known as the awakening stage. It is that precise moment you realize that simply delivering good work is no longer sufficient. It's the shift toward understanding that things like visibility, influence, and alignment, well, they aren't byproducts of performance. They have to be intentionally designed. And that brings us to a final and pretty confronting question. Project your own career forward. If your current trajectory continues for the next 5 years, will you look back and feel fulfilled, or will you feel simply accomplished? The difference between those two words, that's where your next strategic move lies.